So, when did counseling stop being about problem solving? Well, not anymore. Introducing solution-focused counseling with the unlicensed counselor. And now, here's your host, Steve Moak.
Well, hello and welcome to another episode of The Unlicensed Counselor. My name is Steve Moak. I am the Unlicensed Counselor. And as always, it's a great day to be here, and I'm grateful because it's Halloween. It's a fun little day we got going on. A spooky, scary skeleton. I got all these little Halloween songs that my 4-year-old daughter and I put together a playlist. We have a blast. You know, I really like to do up the holidays. It's fun, especially you have a little one running around. You get kind of some renewed excitement around it, and Halloween's a lot of fun. I did have a skeleton costume I was going to put on, but for those of you that don't know what it's like working behind some of the lights, it can get a little toasty sometimes, so I held off so you didn't have to see me sweat through an episode of The Unlicensed Counselor today. But had a little topic I wanted to dive into today. If you're like me, you go to the grocery store, you get your usual grocery stores, and you come back shocked or broke. I'm not sure which one it is. I want to dig into kind of some financial stress, you know, what that looks like. Why is it so stressful? How can we not let it impact kind of your family life and your stress level so it's not controlling you? And then maybe preventing some of that financial stress as well, too. And it's just me and my little one. And we still go to the grocery stores, and I'm just like, here's a little nugget to all the parents out there who, if you don't have one yet, maybe on the way. I didn't realize what my fruit budget would go to, right? From a single guy had an average fruit budget to all of a sudden berries, bananas, oranges, strawberries, blackberries. It's like, okay, that's up in the weekly spend there. So a little something you got to look forward to. But look, call it inflation, call it whoever's running the country. I don't know, but things are definitely more expensive than they have been in a while. And sometimes I look around and I just go, man, how in the world do people afford all of this stuff? So anyways, I won't dig into the episode yet, but that's what we're going to get into and talk about today. What I do want to start the show off and saying thank you to our sponsors, especially our friends at Buzzbin Media. This is a fun little thing that you, the listener or viewer, can get involved with as well. Go to Buzzbin Media. That's BUZ1Z, benmedia.com. They pay you to put advertisements on the side of your trash can. It's a win-win. Brands get exposure while your bin's out on the street, and you get paid $5 for every bin that you put out on the street as well. Go to buzzbinmedia.com. Sign up for this. They're going to be rolling out in a city near you very soon. Big thanks to them. Also, I want to talk about the youth drug abuse prevention work that we do, the StopStartsHere.org. This is the youth drug abuse prevention nonprofit that I co-founded, and I'm very proud of the work that we continue to do. If you want to book myself or some of the founders to come out and speak to your school, we're traveling out of state to do some presentations as well. Go find us. But more importantly, follow us on social media at HardStopOfficial. Last but not least, I want to plug me, the Unlicensed Counselor as well. Go give us a follow on YouTube. We're picking up some new followers every day over there, which is pretty awesome. Obviously, we want you to subscribe to the podcast as well, too. We've been doing this for 2 years, episode 80, 90 something. I don't know. It's a lot. It's getting up there now, so it's pretty cool. Appreciate the continued support. Give us a follow on all the social media channels as well, and you can always find the show wherever you find finer podcasts also. 87, they're telling us. How about that? Getting up there. Crazy. I just remember the first time I sat down in the studio here, Robin. That was a trip. But what a long, strange trip it's been, our friends at the Grateful Dead would say. And I think another one of them passed away recently. I think I saw as well, too. So, look, you come here for some mental health and behavioral health topics, and you find out about music and the weather in Scottsdale usually start the show. Okay, I digress. Let's get back to the topic at hand. I'm telling you, I am just surprised sometimes when I go to the store and you check out and it's like, wow, I'm not going to say I never paid attention to what groceries and things cost, but you just kind of buy what you have to buy and go about your day, and they cost what they cost. I have found myself over the course of the last year, actually starting to look a little more closely. It's like, okay, A, do I need that, right? Or is that just something I would like to have? And B, how much is that particular thing? Is there a substitute that maybe could cost a little bit less? Maybe it's fruit, maybe it's frozen berries instead of whatever it is, because things have gotten so much more expensive. And it's something that just got me thinking. I'm like, financial stress is real, and financial stress really impacts people differently. And I feel like, and I hate to bring up suicide, but I feel like a lot of times you'll see, adult men and things like that will often end their lives over financial stress and the burdens and things. And I'm like, I think there's more of that these days. And I'm not just talking about suicide, but just more stress on people around their finances. So let's talk about why financial stress is so stressful. And I think the number one thing that I had on my list was really your basic needs are suddenly put at risk when things cost so much. So money covers your essentials, right? Your housing, your food, your health care. And when the finances are tight, there is a real fear of not being able to provide for these needs. And if you have to start making decisions around those basic necessities on which one you're going to do, that burden follows you throughout the day, right? You go to bed at night wondering and when that next paycheck is coming in or what choices I'm going to have to make, let alone an unknown expense that certainly pops up, like a car expense or something like that it really could take a bite out of somebody's paycheck all of a sudden. The next thing I think of why it's so stressful is this sense of control, right? This financial stress kind of makes you feel powerless over a lot of things. Like when you used to be able to control your finances and understand it, when they're tight, you have this powerlessness feeling. And if your income is not covering all your expenses and that debt continues to grow, it starts to kind of create this feeling almost in a spiral, right? I can see where it just starts slowly. And then as things get a little bit tighter and tighter, it really kind of gets to that acute point. And now you feel almost paralyzed that you've lost control over your finances and things. And that's a really tough position that I know people find themselves in, right? And that is certainly going to increase your stress, your anxiety, your mood, your frustrations, kind of how you interact with your family. It's going to impact other areas of your life, not just being able to just pay the bills. I mean, it really physically hurts, right? And then there's this kind of the pressure to meet expectations as well, too. So whether it's societal or family expectations to live a certain lifestyle, that can add stress to your own situation if it's not matching up, right? So if you have this pressure to live a certain way, or you have always lived a certain way, and maybe your financial situation has changed, and you feel the need to kind of keep living that way, how are you going to do that? How are you going to bridge that gap? That's going to layer on that stress, that anxiety, that pressure to kind of do that. And you're really going to have to be able to check the ego as well, too, and make those necessary adjustments before you get too far behind. And again, you get caught in that spiral as well, too. And one of the other things that I've thought about is why it's so stressful is that it can impact your future goals as well, too. So that financial strain can make it seem impossible to save for retirement, your kids' education, or any other long-term goals. And then you kind of get into this mode of like helplessness, right? Where it's just like, well, screw it. I mean, what? I can't, I don't see a way forward right now. I don't know how I would ever get, $30,000 into an account so that I could put my kid into college or something like that. You almost get this feeling of like, let's throw the hands up. I mean, that's a depressing place to be able to land, right? And then there's this fear of judgment as well, too. So money issues are one of these, I don't know if it's so unique, but a very unique thing that it's stigmatized. And you almost get embarrassed about, right? And, there's times in my life when I've had more money, and there's times in my life when I've had less money, and you see your friends have more money or less money. And you get embarrassed a lot of the times when you don't have quite as much as maybe some of their others. And this can also lead to some isolation as well. So you kind of withdraw from maybe your friends and family because you're not able to do the things that you want to be able to do because your financial situation won't allow you to do it, which is, by the way, the responsible thing to be doing. Not to isolate, but to maybe slow down on some of the things and excesses that maybe you've spent on traditionally until your situation hopefully readjust. Now, I understand that you can see how this is all stressful, but what about the impact on just your life? What about how it translates to your family too? I know, dads and other friends that I've talked to and people that I've known in the past, and they kind of keep this to themselves, right? And they think that they're kind of hiding it and they're the figurehead of their family and stuff, but it really is going to bleed out into your family as well, too, and especially into your mental health. So that constant financial worry is strongly linked and correlated to anxiety, depression, and difficulty in concentrating as well. If your mind is always thinking about that next bill or that thing, or am I going to get this in so I can make sure that I can cover that, this can just kind of impact your daily mental health, and it can almost make you feel overwhelming, like things are just coming in. And then I know the feeling of when that mail, all of a sudden you got to go to the mailbox and there's another bill, and all of a sudden they're stacking up, and it's like, oh my gosh, like what is going on? This just feels like the weight of the world just keeps settling on you, right? That's going to impact waking up every day and being able to kind of go about your business and do what you need to do. What it's also going to do, or what it can do, is really strain that relationship with your wife and with your kids as well, too. If you let this become kind of consuming to you as well, and you're not actively making a plan in order to rectify this. So financial stress or strain can lead to arguments over spending. It can lead to arguments over debt, your work hours. It's going to strain your marriage, and it's going to strain the relationship that you have with your kids. If you're walking around just angry or nervous or scared or worried all the time, that stuff is going to jump through, and it's going to impact the relationships with those closest to you. I know you can probably keep it secret or hidden for a while, but there will be a point where these things kind of compound to such a degree where it's going to boil over, and maybe you'll break and have a nervous breakdown, or you snap at your family or kids or something like that. And that is obviously something we strongly would like to be able to prevent. But if you're a parent on top of this, parents may feel guilty or inadequate that they can't provide as they'd like to for their children. Sometimes that can even lead to tension or maybe even overcompensation as well, too. Those who don't have a little will try and maybe go a little above and beyond and spend money that they really shouldn't be spending in order to kind of show the kids or the world, no, we're okay. Like, you don't want to let any kind of cracks into the facade and show that, hey, things aren't really that great. So you'll overcompensate in buying more gifts and things like that, so that no one would give any idea that, hey, things aren't exactly going great financially behind the scenes. Here's another little one that I don't know if people think about necessarily. If you've got all this financial stress, it can really impact your actual physical health as well, too. So physical health, I would say the number one thing would be through poor sleep, because you're up at night, you can't get to bed, your head's spinning, it's always kind of in that circle, right? Well, I got to do this, I got to pay this, I got this coming in. That's going to weaken your immune system by not getting enough sleep. This can create, again, additional anxiety. It could actually, probably worsen any type of chronic condition that you may have, or even bring on a new chronic condition as well, too. Don't think that just because you have this stress that it can't impact you physically as well, too. It 100% can. And then the other part, the last thing, it's going to impact your work performance potentially as well, too. Mainly through probably reduced productivity as well, too. You can't have your mind completely over here to the side, worrying and stressed about all these things and thinking that you're going to be able to show up to your job and be Johnny on the spot, thinking quick, clear mind, and all these types of things. And then if it impacts your job security, or maybe you end up losing your job because of this, now we've really gotten into that compounding spiral, and that's going to lead to some really bad situations for you and your family as well, too. Okay, so, this isn't the Dave Ramsey show. Isn't he the financial guy? I'm certainly not trying to be that. I was thinking about this the other day in terms of just the Unlicensed Counselor podcast in general. There are a lot of brilliant people out there. The Jordan Petersons, the Ben Shapiros, the Dave. There's brilliant people out there. What I think that I do, and what I think I bring to your eyes and ears, is a little more direct, a little more simplified version of a lot of their points, too. I enjoy listening to Jordan Peterson, but, I can't exactly understand every single point and reference he's making to 16th century French philosopher or something like that. And don't get me wrong, I enjoy it, but it's like sometimes it gets a little too heady and intellectual for me. So I'm hoping that I can bring it down maybe to my level and convey some of these points a little bit more directly. So I say that because I want to talk about some ways to get out of financial stress and hopefully not let it get control of your life as well, too. There's a lot of different, resources available to people, but let's start by, obviously setting a realistic budget as well, too. List all your income, list all your expenses, understand where your money's coming in, where it's going out, and highlight the areas where you could cut back. Pretty straightforward. Now, if you're like, well, what's the point in creating a budget? I don't have enough coming in to pay what's going out. I would still suggest listing out everything that you have going out the door right now. You're pretty keenly aware, would be my guess, of what's coming in. You might not necessarily be aware or be 100% accurate on some of the things that are going out, and maybe a couple areas where you could potentially trim as well too. That's something that I've done in my own personal life where it's like, oh yeah, I did forget about that one, or I didn't, that one's costing that much. Again, it's just me, and over the last year, I've had to look at some of these things and go, oh, wow, you are kind of bleeding a little bit over here, or maybe that's an expense we could trim up a little bit over there that we don't necessarily have to have. And that could include cutting some of those little luxury things, right? I know it sucks, but when things are tight, you got to do what you have to do until the situation changes. And I think if you can't create a budget, just list out exactly what's going out the door and make sure you have your arms around what's going out. And then you can maybe see what you need to trim from there, right? Now, let's also, when we're doing this, let's focus on the essential expenses first. Make sure your budget prioritizes your essential needs like housing, food, and healthcare. Do you have these things covered? Right? Do we have the basics? So we can keep a roof over our head, we can keep the lights on, and we've got food. If you kind of start there and then work out, I think that's a safe way to start attacking these things. Just so if you lose the house, if you lose the health, if you lose the food, you lose the electricity, like all of a sudden, all these other things, I feel like there's a breaking point that people would have, right? Like if you lose that, then things are going to spiral probably pretty quickly. So if we can just keep those things tight and focused on right now, and then we can start looking at anything, other areas that we need to trim, I think that's a really good kind of safe approach to be able to do this. And then, I talk about this a lot, but let's set some small achievable goals. Financial freedom should be a long-term thing as well, too. It's a long-term goal, but building kind of these small wins along the way by paying off one bill a month or saving $50 a month, whatever it is, can make a big difference over time. And it can also help kind of build this little emergency fund, which I think is a good piece of advice as well, too. I think if you could just create $500, $1,000, you set aside a little financial cushion. So something, you need to get a new tire or set of tires for the car or whatever it is, you've got something that you can fall back on. That may sound small or like not enough money, but it's at least something, right? What it's also going to do is prevent some future stress when something unexpected kind of jumps up and happens as well, too. I don't think it's ever a bad idea to seek some financial advice either if you've got a financial advisor, or there's lots of free resources that are out there that can help you create a budget or learn about kind of debt consolidation or any other financial strategies that may be on your radar right now. Maybe you just haven't been exposed to that. Reach out to some people, maybe friends, family, clergy, whatever it is, to kind of get connected with some folks. Maybe you can at least have an appointment. Maybe you don't have to hire them or work with them, but at least get some ideas or strategies that maybe aren't on your radar today that could kind of help set you up for the future. Again, it's information gathering, right? It's education and it's information gathering. I don't think there's any harm in that. And a lot of this information is available on the web, but why not sit down with somebody and kind of go over it? Look, you're going to have to check your ego at the door on some of this stuff too. If the financial information that you have in your own world isn't great right now, you're going to have to be like, it is what it is. Let's address it. Let's not hide from it. And let's start to come up with a way to kind of get things back on track, right? The other way to do this is consider additional income, right? If you got too much going out, the next natural logical step is let's find a way to bring some more in, right? Call it, there's side gigs, side hustles, Uber. There's a million like side hustle things in the world now. So, you don't have to even necessarily go get a full or part-time job, another one. You could find a way to kind of supplement your income. You could sell some unused items. You could look into side gigs. Any additional income can help relieve a little bit of that stress along the way. In this world today, there's a million different ways, whether it's Fiverr or Upwork or Uber or Lyft or renting out a room. Like, you can get creative. Again, it doesn't have to be something that you're going to do forever, but if it helps you bridge the gap for now, maybe that's what you need to do for now to kind of get through whatever that acute kind of crisis is that you could find yourself in. I think there's, again, we touch on this topic a lot, just practicing some mindfulness and some relaxation along the way too. Financial stress and strain, it kind of hits differently than I feel like a lot of other stress. There's stress at work. Am I going to get that contract or the promotion, or Am my kid's gonna get, like, those are stressful things. But when basic necessities become at risk because money is tight and those things aren't going away, like that adds, there's a different feeling of stress that kind of kicks into there, right? And I do think that we need to make sure that whether it's mindfulness, whether it's relaxation, whether it's exercising, whether it's breathing, just make sure that you're checking in with yourself so that this doesn't consume you, right? Because again, there's just something about financial stress that makes people go a little bit extra crazy, a little more stressed, a little more anxious. And I get it. I'm not belittling that in any way, shape, or form. But be aware of it so that you're not letting yourself go and you're losing your sleep, your job performance is going down, and again, you get caught in that spiral as well, too. I think one other healthy thing might be is to have a little open communication in a small way with family members, trusted people about your financial stress as well, too. Maybe they have some insight. Maybe they are able to help you short term or something like that. Maybe they can help you problem solve or give you a way to think about this or connect you with somebody for additional income. But I think it's a healthy thing to do because you keep that stuff bottled up, and you think that you can hide from it. And when really people might be having an idea of what's going on anyways. So it kind of lets you get a little bit of that off the chest, and maybe they can help you, whether that's financially or just by opening doors or something like that. I think it's a win-win both ways to kind of, again, small circle of trust there, but a little open communication can go a long ways there as well, too. All right, last kind of point on this financial thing is how can we not let it take over your life and let it take over your mood, right? You've got stress, bills are coming in, they're piling up. What are we going to do so that I'm not just all consumed by this all the time? One of my favorite sayings, and again, it always comes back to AA, is let's stay focused on progress, not perfection, right? How many times have you heard me say that in the show? It starts with, the recovery in AA world, but that slogan really applies so many other places, and I think it applies perfectly when we're talking about financial stress. Celebrate small victories, like reducing a credit card balance or building up a savings buffer, right? Focus on progress, not on perfection. You're never going to probably be able to get enough to write a check to cover all these expenses. Let's just keep chipping away at it one step at a time. Create some financial boundaries as well, too. Again, this really goes back to checking that ego, right? If you're going to have to trim some of these things that maybe you've had a standing appointment for years and years and years, maybe that's got to go for whatever it is, right? Maybe that's the mani-pedi, maybe it's the massage, maybe whatever it is. Create some financial boundaries. You can't be out lending or borrowing money from friends or family without clear terms to prevent additional stress. You go out and borrow some money from friends or family or something, you can't pay that back. Now we've got compounding issues as well, too, and that's really going to drag you down. Now you're bringing friends and family into this, and it's like, oh, boy, thought your stress was bad before. Now we got people asking for repayment, and that is really a tough position to be in. Something just in your day-to-day life, and especially as it relates to kids, is focus on free or low-cost fun, joy, things that don't cost a lot of money in order to do that, right? Look for families, activities, or hobbies that don't cost much. Enjoying these can kind of help maintain a positive outlet. Go to the park. Go for a hike. Go to the gym. If you have a gym membership still, go do the little things that don't cost a lot of money. And you know what I've found too? Like, I'd love to be able to take my daughter to Disneyland more and do all these things. And I think that stuff's great and if you can do it. But what the number one thing that I found that she talks about was when we're having fun is just the time spent together. Whether that's on a hike, whether we're out skiing or something like that. It's when we're doing stuff together. And you know how much that costs? Zero. It costs my time. It costs a positive attitude. And that's the only expense there. And you can do that at any point in time. So make sure that you're finding the time for that and go to the park. We have an awesome little train park here in Scottsdale that we'll go to. They do Halloween stuff. They do Christmas stuff. It's just a blast, right? It's just fun little stuff to do. It costs you nothing. And that's the stuff to remember. We do, we bake cookies. Right about, it's coming up here, I guess, after Thanksgiving, we bake cookies for our neighbors, right? And we just put them in little baskets. She decorates them and we drop them off. I buy the pre-rolled stuff, really. I'm not much on the baking side of things, but it's fun. And she looks forward to that. He's already asked, are we going to do that again this year? Again, costs next to nothing, and it's a fun little thing that we do together. Go to the dollar store, find some activities and things that you can do together and figure it out, right? There's ways to do that. Here's another thought. Remember that your worth isn't your wallet, right? Remember that your worth isn't your wallet. Remind yourself that financial struggles do not define you as a person, your value as a person, or as a provider as well, too. And I also like to think that many times these things are temporary, right? As long as you're able to kind of address them, make a plan to move forward, you can usually get through them. Doesn't mean it won't be a little painful during that time and you'll have to make some adjustments, but don't think that your value as a person is less than that person because their wallet may have a couple extra Benjamins in it, so to speak, right? So remember, your worth isn't in your wallet. I think that's an important one. And, last but not least, as you're going through this stuff, don't be afraid to ask for help, seek some support, right? Reach out to your friends or family, small, close circle of trust here, because I know can be embarrassing, to kind of run into these things, right? Who understand kind of your financial stress or situation. Maybe they can provide some encouragement or advice along the way too. And again, it kind of lightens the load a little bit, and maybe they can just be there to support you through this journey as well too, as long as they don't turn around and kind of be critical of you. So again, choose who you share this with very intelligently so that it doesn't kind of bite you on the way out there. So look, focusing on kind of these practical steps and kind of emotional resilience along this way too can reduce some of the financial stress associated with all the strain that's going to come up. Hopefully it's going to strengthen your ability to cope, preserving both your mental health and your family life along the way too. Look, it's no fun. The reason this came up is I go to the grocery store. I mean, I go to Costco a lot now just because it's like I feel like I get a little extra value. Not that my Costco bill is cheap when you get it, but it's like at least they're giving me 20% more items and things like that. So I feel like I'm getting a little bit of value. I don't know if I am or not. But look, times are tough. Don't be embarrassed. Your worth is not in your wallet. Make a plan. Let's stick to it. Remember that this is only temporary, and I think you can get through these things. So, I just wanted to kind of put, like I said, the Unlicensed Counselor is about some direct, bite-sized, kind of tangible things that you can put into play today. If you got somebody in your life, or if it's you that you want to share this episode with and maybe have a conversation about, maybe this is the icebreaker that you could break that conversation open with of like, hey, I could use some advice or, kind of some support as I go through this. So, good stuff. All right. My name is Steve Moak. I am the Unlicensed Counselor. Till next time, thank you very much.